Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Dr. Kamarul Arifin bin Zakaria. Today we are going to study plastic deformation part 1. Basically, when we talk about solid mechanics, there are two important parameters that we are going to study. The first one is regarding the stress, and secondly is regarding the strain or deformation. So far, when we did an analysis, we made an assumption that the material is behave elastically or the applied load is below the yield point. However, today we are going to look what happens if we apply the load beyond the yield point. After completed this lesson, students should be able to understand the plastic deformation behavior under axial loading, analyze the plastic deformation behavior under torsional load, and analyze the plastic deformation behavior when subjected to bending moment. So we have three cases of loading here. The first one, the applied load is axial loading. Secondly is torsional load. And thirdly is bending moment. So far, the analysis of structure were based on the assumption of a linear stress-strain relationship, and the proportional limit of the material is never exceeded. If we refer to the stress-strain diagram, let's say we have a stress-strain diagram for mild steel, something like this. So the linear stress-strain relationship occur at this region, or in other words, our load is below the yield strength of the material. So this is our yield strength. If the stresses in any part of the member exceed yield strength of the material, plastic deformation occurs. So all the analysis so far is to be invalid, and a nonlinear stress-strain relationship should be considered. So if we apply load beyond the yield point, all the formula that we studied in solid 1 under axial loading, torsional load, and bending moment cannot be used for the analysis because the applied load is beyond the yield strength of the material. Analysis of plastic deformation is simplified by assuming an idealized elastoplastic material or elastic perfectly plastic material. In other words, this elastoplastic material is behave elastically and plastically. So the deformation of an elastoplastic material are divided into two. There is elastic range and also plastic range. So permanent deformation results from loading beyond the yield stress. So if we look at to this figure, if we apply load beyond the yield stress, just follow this line. From A to Y is elastic region or elastic range, and from Y to C is the plastic range. So the stress is follow this line from A to Y and to C before it rupture. But if we remove the load before rupture, for example at point C, if we remove the load here, the stress we will remove from the material follow this straight line C to D. So follow this straight line or is behave elastically. So there is a remnant strain, AD, or this one is the permanent deformation that occurs on this material. Permanent deformation. Okay, for the first case, we look at plastic deformation under axial loading. We know that P is equal to integration of sigma over dA, or the applied load, this P is applied load, is equal to integration of sigma or stress over the cross-section area. If we consider one plate, something like this, one plate, subjected to load P here, load P, the tensile load. So if we make the cross-section, then the stress distribution will be like this. Okay. If the load P increase, this magnitude of load P increase, the maximum stress will be increased. So this maximum stress is proportional to the applied load. Applied load increase, the maximum stress increase. If the P increase to Py or yield load, then the maximum stress is equal to sigma y. Okay, sigma max equal to sigma y. Then if we increase again the load beyond the Py, our maximum stress is still equal to sigma y. Okay, look at this figure. This one is P equal to Py, sigma max is equal to sigma y. Then if we increase the P beyond the Py, our sigma max also equal to sigma y. However, the stress distribution become flattened at this portion. Look at this portion, it becomes flattened. And if we further increase, the plastic zone will take place, keep expanding, and distribution of the stress is uniform, where the sigma equal to sigma y. So for this case, our sigma equal to sigma y, but the stress is all flattened. All flattened here. Okay, so there is a few cases. The first one is below the Py, this one below the Py, then P equal to Py, then if we increase beyond the Py until lastly we increase the load beyond the Py until all the material is behave plastically. So the case D is when the material is behave fully plastically. Okay, what is the stress concentration factor K? By definition, stress concentration is equal to sigma max divided by sigma average. So this is the formula for the stress, or definition for the stress concentration factor. Okay, if our sigma max does not exceed the sigma y, then our P is equal to average stress times area, and this one equal to sigma max divided by K times area. When the sigma max equal to sigma y, so we have the P equal to Py, then our Py equal to sigma y divided by K times area. Okay, when P equal to Pu, we have sigma average also equal to sigma y. So Pu equal to sigma y times A, or Py equal to Pu divided by K, where K is the stress concentration factor, Pu is the ultimate load, and Py is the yield load. The stress concentration factor can be also determined using graph in appendix in your textbook. By refer to this graph, the stress concentration factor K can be determined if we know the ratio between R over D. So what is the R and what is the D? If we have a plate with a small hole at the center, then subjected to applied load P is P. So the width of this plate is capital letter D. The radius of the hole is small letter R, and this depth is half of small capital letter D, this portion, and also similar with this portion. Okay, let's say we have the ratio of R over D is equal to 0.15. Yeah. So looking at this graph, 0.15, we project into this line, and from this graph, our stress concentration factor is equal to 2.6. So this is our stress concentration factor. If we have the ratio R over D is 0.15. Look at example number 1. Knowing that allowable stress is equal to 120 megapascal, determine the maximum allowable value of the centric load P. So what is the maximum value of axial load P? Okay, firstly, when we have any type of question, we must analyze and understand the question. So in this question, we have one plate with two holes. The first one at point A, and the second one is at point B. And this hole is subjected to axial load P. So when we have hole at the center of the plate, there is a stress concentration occur across the plate. Okay, so we need to know what is the stress concentration factor at the point A, and what is the stress concentration factor at the point B, and then we can determine the allowable value of central or centric axial load P. By looking at given dimension and loading, at hole A, small r is equal to 20 divided by 2, or small r is equal to 10 mm. Then small d is equal to big D minus 2r, or this one equal to 100 minus 20, then we get small d is equal to 80 mm. Then the A net is equal to D times T. So 80 times 15, we get that A net is equal to 1.2 times 10 minus 3 meter cube. So the ratio small r divided by small d is equal to 10 minus 80, or equal to 0.125. So we can refer the graph of stress concentration factor in figure 2.64 in your textbook. So we can get the value of K from that graph is equal to 2.65. Therefore, the maximum stress is equal to Kp divided by A net, or P is equal to A net times maximum stress divided by K. So if we substitute all the value, we can get that P equal to 54.3 times 10 power of 3 Newton. Similarly, at hole B, our small r is equal to 50 divided by 2. This one equal to 25 mm. Then small d equal to 100 minus 50. Then this one equal to 50 mm. A net equal to d times t. So if we substitute the value, we get the A net equal to 50 times 15. Then this one equal to 750 millimeter square. And the ratio of small r divided by small d is equal to 0.50. So similarly, we look at into the graph in figure 2.64. Then from the graph, we get the stress concentration factor at hole B is equal to 2.16. Then our P is equal to A net times sigma max divided by K. If we substitute all the value, then we get the P equal to 41.7 times 10 power of 3 Newton. So all over value of P is the smaller. If we have 2 magnitude of P, the all over is we take the smaller. So we have here at hole A, P is equal to 54.3, and at hole B, P is equal to 41.7. So the all over load P is equal to 41.7 kilo Newton. When a single structure element is loaded uniformly beyond its yield stress and then unloaded, it is permanently deformed and all stresses should be disappear. But this is not the general result. Residual stress will remain in a structure after loading and unloading if only part of the structure undergoes the plastic deformations, or different part of the structure undergo different plastic deformation. Residual stress also occur result from the uneven heating or cooling of the structure elements. For axially loaded member, the excessive external loading which cause yielding of the material create residual stress in the member when loads are removed. So the loading follow the line O, A, C and result in plastic stress distributions. But when we unloading or we remove the load, the stress will follow the line CD. So result only in elastic stress distributions. So if we make a superposition or superimpose the load to cancel, however, stress distribution will not cancel. Thus, the residual stress remain in this structure. This is the residual stress, and this is the permanent deformation. Okay, next is plastic deformation in circular shaft. Similarly, for the case of plastic deformation in axial loading, we have 3 conditions. The first one, we apply the torque below the yield point. Second one, we apply the torque equal to yield point. And thirdly, we apply the torque beyond the yield point. So far, the distribution of shearing strength in circular shaft subjected to torque T is like this. If we have a cross-section of the shaft with radius rho, the shear strain is 0 at the center of the shaft and increase to the maximum at the outer radius. The shearing strain gamma at the distance rho from the axis of the shaft will be given by gamma equal to rho phi divided by L, where rho is the radius, phi is the angle of twist, and L is the length of the shaft. With the assumption of a linear elastic material, this one is for the case of material behave elastically only, the tau max is equal to Tc divided by J, where T is the applied torque, C is the maximum radius, and J second polar moment of inertia. Consider a solid circular shaft of an elastoplastic material, which is material behave elastically and plastically. When the shaft has a torque applied in the elastic range, the shear stress increases from 0 at the shaft axis to the maximum at the surface of the shaft. So the shear stress is 0 at the shaft axis, and the shear stress is maximum occur at the surface of the shaft. So at the C, this is the surface of the shaft. And the torque is equal to 1/2 pi rho cube times tau y. Okay, this one is for the inelastic range or below the yield point. When the shear stress at the surface of the shaft has reached the value of tau y, the torque required to give this stress is equal to Ty equal to 1/2 pi c cube times tau y. The stress distribution is similarly, the shear stress is 0 at the shaft axis and increase until tau max equal to tau y at the surface of the shaft. If the torque is increased beyond the elastic region, plasticity occurs around the elastic core. So by refer to this figure, we have two parts of material. The first one is elastic core, where the material is behave elastically, and this one is the plastic zone, where the material is behave plastically. So for elastic core, the stress distribution is linear. Stress distribution linear, that means the stress is increased from 0 to the tau y at the radius of elastic core. Then from the radius of elastic core to the outer surface, the stress distribution is flattened. The torque carried by elastic zone T1 is equal to 1/2 rho pi cube times tau y. This one is for elastic zone. And the torque carried by plastic zone is equal to T2 equal to integration of 2 pi rho square times tau y over dp, and this one equal to 2/3 tau y times c cube minus rho y cube. This is for plastic zone. So the total torque or T is equal to T1 plus T2. So if we substitute the value, we substitute the equation 1 and equation 2 into this total torque, then we can get that our total torque is equal to 4/3 ty times 1 minus 1/4 rho y cube divided by c cube, and t also t equal to 4/3 ty times 1 minus 1/4 pi y cube divided by phi cube. Okay. When the fully plastic condition is reached, our shear stress become flattened, where shear stress equal to tau y from the center of shaft to the outer surface of the shaft. And the fully plastic torque is given by Tp equal to 2/3 pi rho cube times tau y, and the ratio of Tp over Ty is equal to 4/3, or ratio of fully plastic torque over yield torque is equal to 4/3, or we can get Tp equal to 4/3 Ty. This is the relationship between the fully plastic torque and yield torque. Look at example number 2. A 50 mm diameter solid shaft is made of mild steel that is assumed to be elastoplastic with tau y equal to 140 megapascal. Determine the maximum shearing stress and radius of elastic core caused by the application of a torque A 3 kN and B 4 kN. So this question asks us to determine first the maximum shearing stress, and secondly is the radius of elastic core. Given that the material have the yield stress of 140 megapascal, and we have two cases of applied load. The first one is 3 kN torque, and second one is 4 kN torque. Okay, from the given data, firstly we need to determine what is the yield point, or Ty. So Ty can be determined using this formula. Ty equal to 1/2 pi c cube times tau y. What is the value of C? C is diameter divided by 2, so 50 divided by 2 is equal to 25 mm, and tau y is given in the question 140 megapascal. So if we substitute all these values into the equation, then we can get that Ty is equal to 3436 Newton meter. Okay, then we compare to the applied load. For the first case, our torque is 3000 Newton meter. This 3000 Newton meter is less than Ty, so it is behave elastic. Then our shear stress can be determined using this formula. Tau equal to Tc over J, or if we simplify it is equal to 2T divided by pi c cube. If we substitute all the values of T and C, then we can get that our maximum shearing stress is equal to 1 to 2.2 megapascal. For case number 2, our applied torque is 400 Newton meter, and if we compare to Ty, it is greater than Ty, so the plastic region with elastic core exists. What is the maximum stress for this case? The maximum stress, or tau max, is equal to tau y. So our tau max is equal to 140 megapascal. Then how to determine the radius of elastic core? We can use this relationship. T is equal to 4/3 ty times 1 minus rho y cube divided by c cube. Or if we simplify, we can get rho y cube divided by c cube equal to 4 minus 3t divided by ty. And if we substitute the value, we can get the ratio of rho y divided by c is 0.8. Or from there, we can get that rho y equal to 0.8 times c is 25. Then we get the rho y equal to 20 millimeter. This rho y is the radius of elastic core. Next is the residual stresses for torsional load. Plastic region develops in a shaft when subjected to a large enough torque. When the torque is removed, the reduction of stress and strain at each point takes place along a straight line to a generally non-zero residual stress. If we refer to the graph shear stress versus shear strain, when we apply the torque is follow the line O, Y, and C, where this Y is the yield point. So if we remove the load or remove the torque at point C, then is follow the straight line like this. For the straight line, then we have the remaining shear stress and also remaining the shear strain. Or if we refer to the graph torsional load versus pi or angular of twist, when we apply the load, apply the torque, it follow the line O, Ty, and also this point C, where this Ty is the yield point. When we remove the torques, it follow the straight line from C to this point. So this is the remaining pi or plastic deformation. So the residual stress found from the principle of superpositions. So the first one, this is the condition when we apply the load or when we apply the torque. We have two portions. The first one, when it behave elastically, this portion, and this portion when it behave plastically. And when we remove the torques, it follow the straight line. So this one, it behave elastically. So superimpose this one and this one, then we can get the residual stress in the structure. Okay, look at example number 3. The solid circular shaft shown is made of a steel that is assumed to be elastoplastic with tau y equal to 145 megapascal and G equal to 77.2 gigapascal. The torque is increased until the radius of elastic core is 6 mm. Determine the maximum residual shear stress in the shaft after torque is removed. So we have a solid shaft subjected to torque T. Given in the question that the yield stress of tau y equal to 145 megapascal, shear modulus of G equal to 77.2 gigapascal, and radius of elastic core is 6 mm. The question asks us to determine the maximum residual shearing stress when we remove the top. So what is the maximum residual shearing stress? To determine the residual stress, we need to know the stress during loading and also during unloading. From the given data, our C is 0.018 meter and radius of elastic core is 0.006 meter. Then we can determine rho y divided by C is 0.06 divided by 0.018 or equal to 1 over 3. Then J for solid shaft is equal to pi over 2 C power of 4. If we substitute the value of C, then we get the J equal to 164.896 times 10 minus 9 meter power of 4. Okay, Ty we can determine using this formula. When it behaves elastically, Ty equal to J times tau y divided by C. If we substitute the value of J, tau y and C, then we can get Ty equal to 1.32833 times 10 power of 3 Newton meter. At the end of loading, our T equal to 4 over 3 Ty times 1 minus 1 over 4 rho cube divided by C cube. If we substitute the value, we can get T equal to 1.7547 times 10 power of 3 Newton meter. So our stress at the center of the shaft, when rho equal to 0, our shear stress equal to 0. And when rho equal to 0.06, our shear stress equal to tau y equal to 145 megapascal. And at rho equal to 0.018, our stress also equal to tau y, this one equal to 145 megapascal. This is the condition of shear stress during loading at different radius. We have 3 points. First one, rho equal to 0, then rho equal to 0.06, and rho equal to 0.018 meter. The torque change during unloading, T equal to minus 1.7547 times 10 power of 3 Newton meter. This is our applied torque. Then when we remove the torque, then we put minus here. And the stress during unloading. Okay, the stress during unloading. This one, we know that when during unloading is follow the straight line or is behave elastic. So we can use this formula. Tau prime equal to T rho divided by J. Then we calculate the shear stress at 3 points. The first one at rho equal to 0, then our shear stress equal to 0. At rho equal to 0.06 meter, then our shear stress equal to 63.8 megapascal. And at rho equal to 0.018, our shear stress equal to 191.5 megapascal. So this is our shear stress during unloading. Okay, next, the residual stress can be determined by superimpose, or residual stress equal to stress during loading minus stress during unloading. So at rho equal to 0, our residual stress equal to 0. At rho equal to 0.006, then our residual stress equal to 145 minus 63.8, this one equal to 81.2 megapascal. At rho equal to 0.018, then our residual stress equal to 145 minus 191.5, then we get residual stress is minus 46.5 megapascal. Next, we draw the residual stress distribution across the radius. So if we draw the shear stress graph, it is something like this. So from the graph, we can see that the maximum residual stress is 81.2 megapascal, which is it is occur at the radius is 0.06 meter. So your question asks to determine the maximum radial stress. The answer is 81.2 megapascal. Okay, that's all the plastic deformation for part 1, and see you again in plastic deformation part 2. If you have any question, you may ask me later. Thank you.